it's not offensive in Toronto. It's not in Connecticut. Okay, I'm picking a little scene that introduces a new character. People were still talking about the earthquake that had rocked Toronto, even though, as earthquakes go, this one barely warranted a 3.5 on the hysterical media reaction scale. A few buildings were slightly damaged. Some ex-heirloom bone china had sadly made the long-last trek to a giant landfill in Michigan. Some CDs and DVDs reportedly fell behind the couch, and some Toronto City Hall executive assistants enjoying a smoking break, one was enjoying a toking break, by the fountain in Nathan Phillips Square, noticed a large crack had opened up at the bottom of the shallow pool surrounding the fountain. It bubbled occasionally and issued a few lazy puffs of steam, which might have been regarded as a tad unusual had they been paying attention, but they were too busy debating what was going to happen next on the reality TV show Who Wants to Murder Their Boss? And the one with the JJ was so fried she didn't notice her skirt was all caught up in the back from her last trip to the washroom. The earthquake was also the hot topic of conversation down the street at the Eaton Center shopping mall, where weary shoppers rested with their shoe store and Bay Company bags on the benches curving around what one might call the stealth sexual fountain. The SSF is weirdly mesmerizing, although few visitors ever figure out exactly what is so gratifying about watching it. Mostly they hang around for the grand explosion, but few grasp the symbolism. The SSF is a large bowl with an impressively phallic-shaped fountain in the middle, which for several minutes gently cascades water into the bowl, which slowly and casually builds up to the brim, and suddenly the water drains down through an opening at the bottom of the bowl. And if you wait, just wait. Oh yes, just wait, it's coming, it's coming! Suddenly, with a mighty rumble, the fountain jets forth a powerful column of water that almost reaches the skylight above. And we're talking a 3-story complex here, people. And then it does it again, and then again. Observers often squeal from the excitement. On this lazy afternoon, people watched as the water slowly built up into the symbolically vaginal bowl and waited with anticipation for the grand climax. Except this time, the water didn't drain down after reaching the halfway mark. This time, the white fountain rumbled and shook, and several shoppers gasped audibly, grabbing their bags and wondering whether they should hang on to their benches or run for dear life in case this was an earthquake aftershock. And then their attention was drawn to the fountain, and they realized something was happening in the very center. Something dark and brown began to rise up, like it was on some unseen lift. It rose up through the apparatus of the fountain and looked like it might be sort of human. And then the fountain stopped and the water began to drain down, and in the center of the metal frame stood an extremely beautiful, if awfully thin, even in these supermodel-obsessed times, and thoroughly soaked young woman. She was tall and gorgeous, if awfully lean, with full breasts and dark brown nipples. Her skin was a burnished bronze, perfect and flawless. Her belly was flat, and her waist so cinched you could count her ribs. Her hips jutted out. Her bottom was comprised of 2 heart-rendingly rounded bowls that glistened invitingly. Drops of crystal clear water slid sensuously down her long, slim thighs, which melted into her thin calves, which ended in impossibly tiny ankles, and delicate brown feet as smooth as a newborn baby's. If anyone had had the courage to pull out a ruler and measure the downy and inviting cleft between her hips, they'd have found a perfect isosceles triangle, although it's unknown if anyone would have survived the attempt, which no one did. Her face possessed an unearthly beauty, high cheekbones supporting a pair of huge, dark, elongated eyes lined with lush lashes. 2 delicately curved eyebrows hovered like angels above. Her dark, wet, melted chocolate hair fell halfway down her back. In any other time and place, she would have been considered unnaturally thin, but in the 21st century, she could have easily signed a contract to model for Abercrombie & Fitch. The mysterious woman stepped forward, balancing on the edge of the fountain mechanism. No easy feat, considering their sharp edges, but she posed as though standing on cushy green grass. She looked around a bit haughtily, surveying the semicircle of shocked faces and dropped jaws. "Holy shit, who the hell is that?" asked one chubby middle-aged man who hadn't yet noticed that his chubby middle-aged wife looked like she just swallowed a live grenade. "Shukr Allah," one young Muslim man breathed as he gazed up at the awesome creature. "Allahu Akbar!" "Brandon, Brendan, don't look, cried a mother. She tried to cover her 13-year-old son's eyes, but he wrenched away and looked anyway, his eyes the size of Hummer off-road tires. I love Canada, cried an Indonesian man who was only in Toronto for his sister's wedding, but decided right there to apply for immigration. The unearthly woman nimbly leaped forward and landed on the lip of the bowl. It was smooth and exquisitely choreographed with no loss of balance, the most fluid, graceful motion anyone had ever seen, although her breasts bounced momentarily and shook free some drops of water which landed on the Indonesian man's head, who promptly fainted from the excitement. Damn, I'm starving to death, she said, looking around as though this was the Mandarin buffet. And the stealth sexual fountain ejaculated toward the ceiling, its impressive explosion hanging for one brief moment in space, then splitting up into tiny foamy ejaculates and falling dramatically back into the pole. And again, and once more. Except now, for the first time in anyone's memory, it actually splattered forcefully against the skylight.